Welcome everyone. My name is Alan Schemmel and I am the Senior Editor of DevOps.com. Today's DevOps.com webinar is how to achieve continuous delivery without downtime. We're happy that it's sponsored. Our webinar today is sponsored by Automic, pretty well-known company within the DevOps space who has done some great things. Here's just a quick abstract of what today's webinar will be about. But basically what we're looking to get out of the webinar is how to automate your deployment of code updates with correct configurations, reduce errors by automating manual steps and scripts, achieve quicker deployment times to meet business demands, and integrate with Jenkins build management. Very lucky to have two great speakers today. The first is Tom Flitter, and Tom will be handling the presentations. Tom's currently the Director of Applications and Intelligence at TASC, Total Administrative Services Corporation. And then we're also joined by Ralph Passion, who's the Director of Solutions Marketing at Automic. You can read both of their glorious biographies online. No need for me to repeat it. We did our polling question, so let's jump right into the meat of the webinar today. I'm going to turn over screen control to Tom, who will be, as I said, navigating the screens. Again, just a reminder, you can follow along, hashtag AutomicCD on Twitter. You can post your questions in the questions or the chat area of the website, and we will take it from there. With that being said, Tom, I believe you have control. Can you hear us? Always a little technical difficulty. Tom, are you there? Well, it looks like
yes,
Tom,
it would help if I take it off mute. Yes, yeah. I can hear you.
Coming off mute always helps, Tom. Okay, you're there. All right, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Tom.
Okay. Can I take it over? This is Ralph Passion speaking, as I'm running this webinar as a moderator. I've taken it over, Ellen, so I'm sorry for that. Thanks, Tom, for sharing the presentation. I'll just tell you when we click forward, and then hand over at the end to your slide deck to talk about how to achieve continuous delivery without downtime. So welcome, first of all, to our masterclass series from Automic, Automate Your World. Today about how to achieve continuous delivery without downtime. With me today, you heard it for a moment, is presented this presentation. Most of that, Tom Flitter, Director of Applications Integration from TASC, Total Administrative Service Corporation, moderated by me. Ralph Passion, I'm Director of Solutions Marketing, as mentioned. What was the case, Alan? The great bios. So let's start with that. Let's start with the bios. Can you click forward? Okay, let me give you a short bio from Tom. Tom is currently the Director of Application Integration, as mentioned before, the information technology leader. I have a huge experience in application development, so therefore any questions that come up today, ask him please. Hopefully he can help you with that. Program management, project management, also team development. So he's years of experience in strategic, cross-functional, complex, and high return on invest technology initiatives. And you can reach by LinkedIn if you want to reach out to him. Feel free, also reach out to us if you want to get in contact. Can you click next slide, please? Just about me, and which is not the case today, so therefore, short bio, running solution marketing department and Automic, did a whole SAP portfolio Automic, and it's all about give a clear understanding to the market, and that's the reason why I'm running this masterclass series on webinars, which are on automic.com. Automate Your World. Feel free to check in and see what kind of webinars are coming up. We're doing a complete series we're doing that till May with a lot of amazing customers, and which you see today with TASC talking about how they solve the problem. And for today, it's all about DevOps and how to do continuous delivery. Next one, please. So I want to give you a short overview about what we are talking about, what is in our plot everywhere. We are thinking this every time. It's all about automation. We are complete focus on automation, especially for business automation. And business automation means at the end that everything in business at the end needs to be automated. We get into that in the next slide, but for now, business automation means any kind of process automation within the business layer, within the application, within the infrastructure layer. Next one, please. Yes. What is driving the business outcomes? We're looking from a different outside-in view. First of all, left side, improve the decision making. You see all the IT initiatives in there, like big data. You acquire, retain more customers because you need more customers in retail, in telecommunication. You have to drive business agility. You have to be faster because of the competition or be ahead of your competition. You have to outsource non-core functions. You have to do mergers, acquisitions, divestitures. You have to improve the efficiency what you're doing today and reduce the cost for it. You have to modernize the business, get rid of the legacy applications, and also all, you have to have the governance, the risk and compliance covered. And the problem is that, can I go to the next slide, please, Tom? Without automation, all these business imperatives we've seen here will fail. You need automation to make that happen, and make it happen from a legacy perspective. You make it happen for a new perspective, new integration perspective, new technologies. You need to integrate all of that. What it means, I'm going to the next slide, please. It's the match from the business imperatives. Next one, please. Next click, please. Okay, done. Thank you. You see, no, go back one. There's a delay in there for me, so I'm sorry for that. Okay. All the business imperatives here, you see what we're talking about. We talked about it in the slide beforehand. And the underlying infrastructure, integrations, applications, databases, unstructured integrations, database integrations, all that needs to be covered. So business imperatives need to talk with the IT about the complexity and diversity impedes agility in the business value. So we have to combine all of that. That is exactly the challenge in all of them to get this business imperatives. Maybe only one or two or three or four are taking care, I used your company taking care of today about it. And the point is you have something in place in IT, you have legacy implementations, you have applications already in there like SAP and Oracle and many, many others. You have now the new approach on SaaS, IT as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, unstructured data now, like the big data things like Hadoop integration. You have a lot of tools and products in place in IT and your business, but you have to fulfill your business imperatives. And that's really the complexity in there. Next one, please. So what's the case? The case is really that we built, from our perspective, a one automation platform which covers all of these imperatives with different kind of products on top of this platform, which means we can do service orchestration, orchestrate services, any kind of service, not just the provisioning, which everybody thinks it's orchestration, but also the application on top of it, the business process on top of it. Everything could be a service. A monthly close could be a service. A financial close could be a service. A system could be low-level IT, backup, storage, whatever it could be a service. And in between, there's the release automation piece, which we are talking today about, continuous delivery, which is a deployment. This is deployment of applications continuously with a platform who's able to cover the business imperatives and the IT area. And then also work automation, where we originally coming from, taking care about all these processes for business, for IT and applications. Next one, please. Okay, it's coming now. I said 2 seconds, 3 seconds delay there. I'm sorry. I think so on Tom's side will be better. Why Automic? We have a singular focus on business automation. We are business automation specialists. We are really taking care about automation. We are focused on it. We're not doing any kind of ITSM or anything else. We're just talking with business. We're talking with IT. We're talking both languages. With over 27 years experience, we're trusted by 2,600 huge corporation companies, brand names out there, growth year over year, 650 people, 24/7 global support, and so on and so forth. We don't want to mention all of that because you can read it anyway in the presentation. You'll see that in the video later on. We have free product, as mentioned, work automation, release automation, service orchestration. We are mentioned by many, many analysts like EMA, Forrester, and Gartner. And you see, as you see with the next webinar, we will see talking about Forrester, Horizon 2020, the road to converged automation. You see, we are really seen on the market at that level. With this, I hand over to Tom. Tom, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. It's your time.
Good. Thank you very much, Ralph, and good afternoon, everybody. As Ralph mentioned, my name is Tom Flitter. I'm the Director of Applications Integration at TASC, Total Administrative Services Corporation. I'd like to start out a little bit just helping you become familiar with TASC so you can kind of wrap your arms around what we do here and why our web applications are so important to us. TASC is currently the nation's largest privately held third-party administrator. So we provide employee benefits administration to our customers, our clients. We're celebrating 40 years in the industry this year, growing very rapidly, have customers in all 50 states. We have approximately 60,000 clients. So clients are customers, are employers that have employees that use employee benefits, and then we work hard to help administer those benefits, saving those customers time, money, and making their life easier for them. Approximately 600,000 active participants. So these are employees across the nation that use our services through our web, mobile-based applications. And on our average day, we'll hit 400,000 active connections and logins to our website. And then during our peak time, we will peak at 100,000 plus. It's been growing over the years as our company grows and our reach grows across the nation. High transactional base on the website, so these folks are submitting reimbursements for their benefits. I went to a doctor's office. They need to submit a reimbursement for that doctor visit, and they're visiting our site to request that reimbursement, check on balances, update their profiles. And then those customers or those clients are also working online to enroll new people, change addresses, and administer their employee list and census data. When you look at us, we're kind of a cross between a financial organization and an insurance company. So providing benefits, but also managing and administering benefit money on behalf of our customers. So when we first started our journey a few years ago, we have a good cross-section of platforms here at TASC. Through acquisitions and through significant growth, we've got a good mix. Our core application is written in Java, and that supports the majority of our customers, both internal and external. But we also have a set of .NET applications that we use to administer plans, though those are also custom. We have PHP web-based solutions that are used internally and externally. We have a layer of data integration services that we use to manipulate ETL and manage data across our platforms. We started out with the Automic One automation engine. It was actually 5 years ago this month. And we started there for a very different reason than what we're going to talk about today, but it was the start of us getting involved with the automation engine and Automic. Our infrastructure, heavy Linux environment, a lot of Windows applications as well, though, and Windows servers. We were primarily on-premise, mostly virtualized, but here in our data center. We had back then we had a small Amazon EC2 private cloud. We were just starting to explore in that space. And then we had a few SaaS-based solutions that we were moving into and trying to use to meet our business needs. Since our core application was written in the Java platform, that's where our focus really started 5 years ago. At first we were doing major Java releases to our platform to provide business value to our customers, both internally and externally, every 2 to 3 months. Not very agile. Then we moved to, we were able to, with some brute force and some additional team members, move to doing Java releases every 4 to 6 weeks. But in order to do that, we needed someone to facilitate the release. We needed a couple of Java developers to help deploy the release. We needed a QA person or two to help validate the release. And then we usually needed one systems engineer to manage the servers and the applications, the load balancing, and help us deploy successfully. Again, then with some tweaks to process and just better process and procedure, we were able to release Java every 4 weeks. But again, with the release facilitator, Java developers, QA, systems engineer. These releases, they were weekends only. They required downtime for the entire period that we were deploying. And they would last anywhere from 6 to 10 hours, depending on how complex and how well the deployments went. So you can imagine having all of those resources on a weekend tied up for 6 to 10 hours, during which time our system is completely down. You can understand that that caused a problem for us. We only did releases when we had to. You couldn't do releases often because that meant more downtime, that meant more cost, and there was not enough hours in the day to do more releases. All of this ended up costing money. You can see the cost behind not only the resources needed to do the releases, but the time that the system was down cost us value with our customers. Saturday nights you can imagine for you or I, if we were looking to submit reimbursement requests for our FSA fund or our employee benefits, Saturday night's probably a good time to do that. You're sitting in front of the TV on your laptop. You're going to take some time to manage some of those accounts. And we would take that time away from our customers to do our deployments. So as you can imagine, there are quite a few challenges. Some of them I already talked about. We were limited to weekend releases only. It was the only time we could, Saturday nights was the only time we could effectively take down the system without significantly hampering either our external customers or our internal business processing team that uses the exact same system. 6 to 8 hours of downtime. The high team resource costs. So we had to have some pretty highly skilled individuals on these calls to make sure they went smoothly. And during the times where they didn't go smoothly because of the manual process, often we had to pull in even more skilled resources to help us troubleshoot what went wrong, what step was missed. We couldn't deliver for our customers as quickly as we wanted to. So our business partners within the organization had value that they wanted to deliver, and we could only deliver that every 4 weeks at best. We had quite a few quality impacts. Again, manual nature of a deployment, you can imagine if you have your deployments run by scripts that had to be kicked off by individuals, you had to wait for the script to be done before you kicked off another script. If you missed a step, many times you would have to start over or back out. And those all caused us quality problems and either would cause us significant fits during the release and cause our releases to be not as successful as we wanted, or the downtime would be much longer as we tried to troubleshoot. In addition to some of those things, we had a lack of controls with the releases. you can imagine if you have a developer coding the release and releasing it into production, that doesn't fit into our auditing procedures and policies. So we wanted to implement something where we could have this separation of duty across our organization and across our development teams to make sure that as we grew and as we went through our audits, we could easily point to an orchestrator that would run our systems for us. We had limited knowledge. Only a few people knew how to do these deployments, were skilled at them, knew the tricks that had to be done. And again, you know, probably our biggest one that I'd like to call out that Ralph talked about as well is the driving business agility. Our organization is privately held, very entrepreneurial spirit, very innovative, and our business partners are looking to add value constantly. And if we're not able to keep up with that value delivery, we start to run into problems not meeting their needs. So as we started out on our journey into automation and this idea of continuous delivery, we set some goals for ourselves and a vision of where we wanted to be. We wanted a repeatable process with limited team involvement. We didn't want to have all those folks spend their Saturday nights with us when they could be spending them with their family, having a little more work-life balance. We wanted to shorten or eliminate our downtime. At first, we just wanted to shorten it. We didn't know if we could eliminate it. That was a high goal of ours, but we definitely wanted to shorten it. We wanted to be able to do more releases than just one every 4 weeks or 6 weeks. The quality of our releases had to improve. That was a showstopper for us, that our quality, that we were running into problems with our releases and the quality wasn't there. We wanted to enhance those controls that we talked about so that we could better show a nice control within our software development lifecycle and our release cycle. And we wanted something that could be flexible. Our business changes, the needs of the business changes. As we acquire new companies, we acquire new platforms, new systems. So we needed a process, a tool set, a framework that was flexible and could grow with us. So where did we go? We started out initially with using Automic just for its automation engine, trying to do some, Ralph talked about it before, some workload automation, some service orchestration, and it was a very useful tool. And we realized after doing that that we could use the Automic platform and the ARA platform to help us with our release automation. In the end, really what we had is we had a series of manual tasks being performed by a number of very skilled people, that we found out an orchestration platform like Release Automation or ARA platform could help us orchestrate, control, and better manage that process. So we started on our journey for release automation. Again, we focused first on our Java application. It's our core application. It's the largest application. It is the one that serves most of our customers. Our first step was to outline and document the manual process that we had in place. That was a key piece in our success, is being able to wrap our heads around exactly what was being done, who was doing it, and in what order it needed to be done. When we implemented that into the Automic ARA platform, the release automation platform, we were able to move our Java deployment cycles down to 45 minutes. But they still required an outage. We still had to do them on Saturdays. Still required an outage. Didn't require as many people. We still had to have a QA person there to validate the release went properly, and we still had to have an engineer there to actually do the deployment. But cutting down from 5 or 6 people to just 2, and 45 minutes down from 6 to 10 hours was a huge success for us. We still needed that outage though, and it still wasn't good enough. With the use of the ARA platform from Automic, we then started to enhance our processes, enhance our flows, so that we could reach this idea of no downtime, or what we call here rolling deployments. And this was a pretty advanced feature set for us. We weren't sure how it would work or how successful we'd be at it. We had a great group of engineers here that were able to use the Automic platform to provide flows for us that actually we can now release our Java platform in most scenarios in a rolling framework. So to us, what does that mean? That means that our customers do not experience any downtime. The ARA platform actually brings down one server, deploys, actually takes people off, bleeds people off of the platform, deploys, grabs the next platform, within our load balanced environment. Now a rolling deployment takes longer, but from our end it doesn't matter. We have an orchestrator in the ARA platform that actually orchestrates it all for us, carries out all the flows, and our customers don't know anything about it. We actually have done several rolling deployments starting in the late afternoon. So during business hours, we can actually start the rolling deployment without any impact to our internal or external customers. And then we're also able to more quickly release these minor releases, or what we might call hotfix deployments as well, without outage. So in our previous life, we had to roll everything into a release. It was that we had one release a month and we moved everything at the same time, whether it was a small change or a hot fix or whatever, because we were very limited in what we could do. Now if there's a business need, if there's a business value of something that we want to release much more quickly within a week's time frame, within a few days time frame, we can now use our automated deployment and our continuous delivery framework to roll these value releases out to our customers much more quickly. And with that orchestration and automation, they're also much more effective and with a higher quality. There's no missteps. The process actually gets better and better as we keep going. We find new ways to enhance it. We find new ways to make it faster. And so now we set our goals pretty high to wanting to have not only a 45-minute, but can we cut that down to only 30 minutes? So we keep setting the bar a little bit higher as we go along. Since we did this successfully with our Java platform, our PHP application development cycle was next. And again, the same thing there. At one point, we had one person that could do our deployments for us. And that obviously doesn't work as we want to become agile, as that person moves into different duties, as that person needs to have a work-life balance. So we implemented the ARA release automation software as well for our PHP area. So now we can have any of our team members deploy PHP-based releases for internal and external customers very quickly through the same mechanism that we deploy Java. And that's one of our goals as well, is to have a repeatable process that can be used across all of our platforms, whether it's Java, PHP, or whether we get into our .NET environment as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Once we had this down and we were doing these deployments to our production environment, we saw another area that we could use our continuous delivery and release automation tool set and framework for. And we decided to expand upon our EC2 environment and use it more effectively for our development and test environments. And what we have been doing for the last year is increasing that to the point where all development and all test of our applications are done in the EC2 environment. And we use the ARA platform and release automation in combination with Amazon's EC2 and our build and deploy, Jenkins and Maven tool sets to do automated provisioning of our infrastructure and operating systems in EC2. The flows do automated data refreshes. They deploy all components, and then they can deploy and manage those environments by anyone. So basically what we've enabled our team to do now, instead of needing an engineer or a systems engineer or a Java developer or anyone else to facilitate a deployment within these environments and sometimes wait even weeks to get an environment deployed or provisioned. You can imagine, even in a virtual environment, getting skilled infrastructure resources to deploy new environments for you can take time and does cost money. What we've implemented now is the ability for our QA team members, for our business analysts, our project managers, really anyone, to use the ARA platform and very quickly spin up and provision a whole new environment within Amazon EC2. The flow actually builds a data refresh for them with the most current data. It pulls together multiple environments for them into one single provisioned environment. So if they need a Java platform, a PHP platform, MySQL backend, a data refresh, they can do that all with a few choices from drop-downs and a push of a button. Then we allow that team member to manage and control that environment. They can spin it up very quickly. Usually just takes them about an hour to spin up an environment, I believe. They can shut it down when they're not using it, saving us time and money. And they can kill the environment when they're finished with it. And then the next day when they come in, they can spin up a brand new one. They can also schedule it so that they know that if they're coming in the next day and they're going to need an environment spun up, they schedule it the day before for 6 a.m. and by the time they get into work, their environment is spun up with a full data refresh and all the components they need to do their development or their testing. What has this done for us? Well, this has made us able to move much faster for our business. We talked about before the driving business agility. You can imagine now we can have, currently we allow 10 environments in the EC2 platform to be spun up at any one time. So you can imagine we can have 10 different efforts using different environments with different build numbers, different versions of the code, all running at the same time and moving business solutions forward more quickly than before. We've removed the need for bottleneck for environments. When we're finished with an environment, it no longer hangs around and takes up space in our data center, uses resource. It is managed and either removed or shut down while we're not using it. We've got some great visibility into these environments. Not only have we pushed the management to the team members to watch over their own, empowered them to provision and own their own environments, but we can watch it over from an organization standpoint as well and do capacity planning, figure out what we might need, figure out where we're being efficient and where we're not being efficient. We have a clear status page that provides visibility of each of the environments. What part of the environment is being used? Is the database being used? Is the PHP layer being used? Is the Java layer being used? How long has it been used? Who is using it? All of these things give us a better, clear understanding as we move forward with being more agile for our business partners and being able to provide these projects and values for them on a timely basis. The other area that drives us into, and I love this piece, is the flexibility. If you remember, when we started out with the Automic solution, we really didn't have this in mind. We had a different mindset 5 years ago, a different need. But over the years, we've used this platform to build something quite remarkable, something that very few other companies are doing, and we haven't done it with a huge team of people. We haven't done it with a huge amount of money. It's given us great flexibility to do multiple things, to where this tool and this framework can be used to take us into new areas providing new value for our customers. We've got some next steps, and really I see this next year not being so revolutionary as just maybe hardening, where we can now take this environment, grow it in a few areas, harden it in a few areas, and improve upon it. We'll continue to move forward with our EC2 automation, building all of our components and technologies into that platform. So we have a few platforms yet that are, because of maybe their licensing restrictions or how they're integrated with different platforms, it's hard for us to be able to choose them as we do deployments or these provisioning of environments. So we'll continue to work on those, think creatively on how we can deploy into those environments and have all the components necessary for our teams to keep moving quickly. We're also using this as a technology and as a company that's working more and more with vendors to deliver solutions. Having the ability to spin up specific environments for our vendors to use has become very valuable. We can have one vendor working in a very specific environment spun up by our platform over here, and we can have another environment spun up by our platform over here, completely separate from each other, working only up when they need to be up. So if the vendor is only working from 8 until 5, we can spin the environment down at 6, spin it back up the next morning. Helps us control costs, and it helps us be more flexible with the different needs of those vendors and the different ways we work with our vendors. We're going to want to enhance the high availability of our environment. As you can imagine, as we use it more and more for our deployments, for delivering our projects more quickly, it's become a vital core system of our organization. So we'll be working this year to upgrade and enhance the high availability of the environment, making sure that we are covered for any system failovers or capacity needs as we use it more and more. We're going to be expanding our ownership. This framework is easy to use, and so we're going to expand it across our organization, get more people trained, and cross-sharing the knowledge so that we know exactly how it works and we can continue to grow it with the staff that we have. And one of the other areas that we'd like to expand it in, and I believe this is an area that Automic is working in as well, is using it with what I'm calling non-traditional environments, or maybe some of the SaaS-based platforms. So we use NetSuite here. We have a workflow application. We have several other vended and SaaS-based applications. And some of those applications, as we configure them or customize them, doing deployments to them are actually very clunky, very risky, clunky, requires a good deal of effort and timing. And so what we'd like to do is use the same model and methodology using our orchestration framework to be able to help deploy changes and configuration changes to NetSuite, control those, control and deploy changes to our workflow application and other vended applications to make sure that we have a controlled environment with high quality and that can meet the needs of our business partners. With that, that concludes my portion of the presentation, and I can pass it and open up back to Ralph.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Great insights, absolutely great insights. Thank you. Especially the next steps are great to see, and yes, we can help with the non-areas, non-applications that you want to add here, vended and workflow processes. Let me give you some info and insights for where you can read about ERA, what Tom mentioned here in this great presentation. It's one, you can download a shortcut from www.automic.com, key requirements for practical DevOps. Really good read to look at it, how we see DevOps with using ERA. Request a demo on it. Look inside what is Tom talking about. If you're taking a demo, request that, get a demo, and see the insights what's going on. Can you click next slide, please? By the way, feel free, as mentioned by Alan, to ask your questions in the chat panel or in the questions panel, preferred in the questions panel. Feel free to ask your questions. We are here for that. Before we start a Q&A, I give you some information about upcoming events and webinars, as we are having a masterclass series, running a lot of webinars with customers, as task Tom Fleur did today with his great presentation, with great insights, what he's doing with our product. First of all, also the analyst from Forrester, Jean-Pierre Galbani, will do the next webinar, Horizon 2020, the road to converged automation, which means where it all goes to: work automation, release automation, orchestration. It goes all to converged automation, and it gives you clear insight where we go in the next 5 years with automation, including the cloud, including public, private, legacy, whatever it is. 5th of March, get your process back in control. But I want to show also some webinars coming up on the Automic.com, on the Automating World webinar series. You'll see that on the website, on the banner. There are 2 coming up for you interesting in DevOps stuff, DevOps itself, and DevOps.com. Will be Nordea is talking about self-service orchestration with application release, and also Accenture will talk about Siebel deployment in a company. If you ever had a problem to deploy Siebel in your company, feel free to reach out to us. We have an implementation we can talk about, and as a part of the ARA product. Check it out at Automic.com. My contact info below. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Twitter and follow me. I'm happy to retweet also your parts, so feel free to check that out. So questions, I got some, Tom, and I would like to ask them if you're, are you available? Are you here? I'm mute.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm
okay,
here.
Perfect. I just wanted to ask you one question about, it's very interesting to listen to your presentation inside out, especially about the work-life balance, which you never mention which you can't mention really in the presentation from a vendor perspective. But we're interested, you're talking about limited team involvement as one of your goals. What was the limit? Get people back on work-life balance? What was the limit in there?
Yeah. I can tell you what my goal would be. Our goal, I think, has always been the ability to schedule a deployment. That's the involvement. To be able to have somebody schedule the deployment to happen, either whether it's a rolling deployment or maybe it does need a brief outage for a reason or not. For that deployment to happen, for it to kick off our automated quality assurance scripts to do confirmation, and then to alert us that the deployment is successful, or then to page out if there are any issues. But really, I'd like it to get to the point where there is, outside of scheduling it and making sure you have all the pieces plugged in, it's automated. We're still doing, right now we do schedule, but we have somebody watch over it, and then we also have our quality assurance team validate it once it's complete. That's the area that we'd like to dive into a little bit more, is how to automate the validation and the quality assurance piece of it.
Got it. Thank you for answering the question. I have another one which comes up in your presentation from the audience. How many full-time employees would you expect in average involved in the whole deployment before Automic came in with the ARA? So average you got in the full-time employees on that?
Usually, before we went down our path of continuous deployment and the automation with ARA, we had a whole team of people leading up to the event of deployment that would be involved, making sure we had all the steps, had all the pieces, had all the code. So we'd have probably a dozen people involved in that planning exercise prior to a deployment, and that would last anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. Then on the actual deployment day, it would range on with the complexity, but it would pretty much 5 to 6 skilled individuals that would be on the call, working back and forth throughout the call. You know, they brought this server down, okay, deployed to here, okay, validated on that server. You know, back and forth for, again, depending on the complexity of it, it would range anywhere from 6 to 10 hours. So, you know, significant investment in that method of doing deployments versus now where we, a person schedules it, maybe they watch over it, and then we have one QA person that validates.
So which means when you're doing more, sorry, when you're doing more deployments, you need more resources to add. That's not really self-service. And the work-life balance thing, which is meant for limited team involvement, is really in risk if you're doing more. Correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And orchestrated by a mechanism to make it, you know, higher quality too. You know, it's very easy to miss a step in a huge deployment plan. So now we've turned that risk down significantly.
So it's all about the quality of the process itself. So it's not error prone anymore because there's a manual section there. It's automated. It's working the same way as it always works. If it not works, you get informed about it. Something like that.
Correct.
Okay. The last question, and as said, feel free to ask your questions while at the question panel. When I hear EC2, when I get on the market and I'm listening to many customers about EC2 involvement for non-production areas, two questions on that. Are there any plans to move your non-production area completely on EC2? And the second question is just planned for the production in the next years about that, or is EC2 just a little piece today?
Yeah, it's a good question. We started out on our journey a little more than a year ago, about a year and 4 months ago, working in the EC2 world with a very specific purpose. It was to remove some of the bottlenecks we had in our development and testing environments to deliver value and projects for our business partners. So very specific focus with that initial one, but as we're getting good at it now, as we have those environments out there and we have the ARA platform and the automation platform all tied in, and we've got some excellent engineers that have built this out for us and continue to grow it. Yeah, we are looking at moving more. Really, one of the areas where it can be a challenge in the EC2 environment is cost. So if you move your environments out into Amazon and you spin them up with all the hardware and everything you need, and you let them run, it can be very expensive, especially for a multi-node environment and high available environment. What our engineers have been able to do with this framework and the ARA platform is be able to manage that very carefully, be able to watch over and control our costs there. And with that model where we can control costs and have the flexibility of spinning up environments when we need them, the right size, shutting them down when we don't need them, that whole framework has opened the door for us to move other non-production environments in there and including our production environment. So we're doing some ROI and cost benefit analysis right now to see if our moving production environments is something that we want to pursue in the future.
So it sounds like we are following your message with our automation perspective. We can say independent where it runs, it's in the cloud, it's hybrid, or it's on-prem, where it runs, you can run it, and you decide on your KPIs or whatever you have in place as a late. You decide where you want to run it and where you want to run it, spin off or get rid of it at the end of the day. Okay, wow,
exactly right.
Sounds great to me. So if there are no questions anymore.
We have lots of questions, Ralph. Hold on.
Okay, let's go.
I don't think we're going to have enough time now to get the questions, but we'll do the best with what time we have left. Tom, we have a question from a member of our audience. Tom, when provisioning a new environment, is there a shopping cart style selection to select the components, or how are the components defined?
That's a good question. Yeah, there is. It's not as pretty as you might think of like an Amazon shopping cart, because it is used by our internal staff. It's one of the areas where we might make it a little bit better as we move forward, make it a little more user-friendly, but it is very much shopping cart where you say, I need a Java environment, I need a MySQL environment, I need a fresh data reset, I need a PHP environment, I need build number XYZ, go. And that will, so then it'll take all of those parameters and spin up an environment that you've chosen from the menu.
Great, and that question was by Jesse Getz. Our next question is from Amit, and he wants to know, are you doing blue-green to ensure zero outage deployments?
Zero outage deployments. Yes. Well, we'd like to get there. We still do, if I understand the question correctly, we still do have deployments that require an outage, and that's because of maybe a significant database change, things like that, where we have to do an outage. However, we've reduced those, like I said, down to about a 45-minute window where there's an outage, and we're getting better and better at limiting our deployments to, really the majority of our deployments are more rolling deployments where there is no outage. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and it looks like a follow-on question from Amit is, are you planning canary deployments? And if yes, how are you ensuring that sessions stay sticky to the new code versus switching between old and new versions of code?
That's a good question. We're not doing tons of work there right now. What we do with our rolling deployments is, in our load balance environment, we actually we call it, we bleed users off of the environments. So we, can think of it like a rolling blackout or a rolling, a little different, where we have a huge farm of servers that host our application, and we take pieces of them down at time and then redirect all the traffic over to the other ones. So that's why what we have done is our rolling deployments take much longer to deploy, because they deploy pieces at a time. But one of the areas we'd like to look is how can we do that more easily, so that even we even want to look at the ability to deploy maybe only pieces of a functionality to specific people. And how can we do that with our continuous delivery and automation platform? But that's something that's still a work in progress.
Excellent. Okay, our next question is from Melly Chow, and I hope I understand this correctly. Tom, I guess they want to know, how do you move from MJR, that's Mary Jones Robert, I'm not sure what that stands for, MJR release deployments taking 45 minutes to no outage?
So going from, like I mentioned before, our initial deployments that took 6 to 10 hours, that was all manual. Then when we moved into this automation platform, again, we moved them to that 45-minute deployment time. And then the rolling deploys, again, like I said, there are some deploys where we have to have an outage because of a major database change, something like that, that we haven't quite tackled that yet. But our rolling deploys, again, what we've done is, by using the Array platform in combination, integrated with our load balancing environment, we're able to bleed off users, deploy code, spin back up people, get them back on that code, and we're able to manage that very, very well. Our engineers have done a really nice job using the framework and the tool set to integrate with our load balance environment, and that's really the key on how we can do those rolling deployments.
Got it. Ralph, this is probably one for you. Does Automic provide a suite that can cover all the 3 areas of continuous integration during development, which is build, deploy, test?
It's an answer from me. So I have to give the answer. No, we're not doing any build. We do the deploy of the application. We do the build and release, and that's the reason why we integrate stuff like Jenkins and many other tools which are on the website, which we are mentioning, where we're integrating with. We are typically doing automation. We're not doing anything else like ITSM, build, release, but deploy is an automation process. Therefore, we take care of. And that's the reason why we built TASC Jenkins within that build.
There's no sense fixing what isn't broke, right? And they just want to know, is Automic primarily then for DevOps and continuous delivery?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I think this one goes back to Tom, and it's, how are rollbacks handled, Tom?
So rollbacks, previously, when we had our manual process, rollbacks were painful. Very rarely did we do a rollback. we would stay online during those deployments and make it work. Now, rollbacks, although they're not very frequent, because we do have a pretty good quality assurance process and we do test all of these deployments in our model office, but when we do have to do a rollback, it's much easier with an ARA solution and framework in there, because you can imagine that everything is just flowed out. The process is all flowed out and mapped out in the tool set, and you can basically reverse it, and it exactly knows what to do. So the machine knows it moved from here to here, and it knows that it can move back. So it's made it very easy for us. It's still something that we we only do when we absolutely have to, but the tool has made it much more available to us should one of those disasters occur.
Got it. Question from Carter Mitchell. Did you need to add or enhance your automated testing capabilities to augment the deployment process?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's one of our challenges right now, is we do have an automated testing platform that we use here. We've got a mixture of some Selenium, and we also use SmartBear automated testing for our Java and .NET platforms. And what we want to get to is the point where in that process of grabbing a build and integrating with Jenkins and deploying it out to these application servers, we then want our automation and orchestration platform to automatically fire off all of our automation scripts and then receive the result of each one of those and tie that into our flow as well in our orchestration. We're not quite there yet. We still do have a QA person involved in the process, but that's one of the things that's been on our list here for the last few months to try to figure that out.
Yep. We just have a few more questions. I know we're over time, but if you're interested, we'll try to get you answers. Next question, I think, is another Tom one. How do you minimize the DB task downtime to get to minimum outages?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer for that. I look to smarter people for that one. I think right now, all I can say on that one is we've narrowed it down to as much as we can right now, that 45-minute outage, because of the database changes that we might have to do. I don't know exactly how to do it any better than that, or how to eliminate that. I know our engineer team is working on, they have some ideas on how they can do even those outages, by taking snapshots and having an active database set up and things like that. I know they're looking into, but we haven't gone full down that path yet. It's complex.
Okay, this one's from Katie, and it's, what components are you deploying? Just code, database changes, environment changes?
Good. Yep, we're deploying code, database changes. We do have environment changes, so some of our environment changes are in configuration files that are also version controlled and held within our code repository, so those get deployed as well when we have different changes there. And then we also do have some database driven parameters that will update as well during a deployment.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, Tom, we got a lot of questions. How are deployments in lower level environments, non-PR, managed? Does Automic use snapshots and have a dashboard for managing full release versions by environment? Ralph, would you know maybe?
I did not get completely the question. I did not using snapshots, but we have an environment manager as part of our product. So we can handle environments, taking care about what's in there. We have technology in place which is doing outage recovery, so we can find everything, what's in the environment going on, updating them, patching them, building that from scratch. So if this is the question, can we handle the environment? Are we doing snapshot from environment? I need a little bit more deeper information what is meant with this snapshot. What is exactly proposed and what is expected with the snapshot?
Got it. One more. This looks like a Tom one. How do you ensure that test data for non-PR environments is not a bottleneck as part of your deployment lifecycle?
Test data is not a deployment. So it used to be that it used to be a huge bottleneck for us. About a year and a half ago, that was one of our biggest things we would our QA or our development teams would request a data refresh, and handful of hours later they'd get it. Now, using the EC2, having our environment in the EC2 world, the engineers have figured out a way. I'd probably do it injustice by going into the significant details of it, but they have the ability where they have a snapshot of the data always available. And again, I'm probably simplifying this, so excuse my ignorance here, but they have a snapshot of the data that gets synchronized and is always available. So now when somebody wants to do a data refresh or a full refresh up there, in the EC2 environment, you can drop that database and just do a snapshot and bring in another one. Now, if you have changes in the data that you want to keep, that becomes a problem then. Obviously, you can't, we don't have a way to, synchronize new data into a database that has data that you want to keep. But now we're down to the point where a data refresh, I think, is, I want to say maybe a half hour, if that.
That's impressive. All right, gentlemen, I believe that's the last question. Guys, thank you for working a little overtime here. I'm sorry we ran over.
No problem. I appreciate it.
Okay,
no problem. Me too.
Good stuff. So Ralph Passion of Automic, Tom, I'm spacing on your last name. I know it begins with an F. Is it Fuller?
Flitter, yep.
Flitter, okay.
Tom Flitter.
Tom and Ralph, thank you very much for being our guest on this DevOps.com webinar sponsored by Automic today. It was a terrific presentation, I think is evidenced by the questions we got from the audience. And, maybe we can take a peek back at you maybe in a couple of months, Tom, and see how things have progressed since then. Or since now.
Thank you, Alan.
Ralph, thank you. We look forward to doing more Automic webinars, as you mentioned. I think we might have 2 upcoming ones next month or the month after. Of course, we'll let our audience know.
Already planning, watch out on atomic.com on the Automate Your World webinar masterclass series, and you will see it.
Very good. Gentlemen, thank you. Most of all, to those of you who have stuck it out to the bitter end here, way over time. I apologize, but I hope it was worthwhile. Again, these slides and the audio and everything will be available within 24 to 48 hours. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com, and we'll see you on our next webinar.